Recording episode 2 of Baking in the Kitchen with Hollie. Audio 1, 2, 3. Good morning, freaks and geeks. I gotta look there. Okay, starting. Hello, freaks and geeks, and welcome to Baking with Hollie. I'm back in my kitchen, and you have all told me on Instagram that you really want me to make a deadly chocolate cake. Okay, no problem at all. Deadly chocolate cake. Now, this is going to be one of those cakes that you can make at home when you really, really need it. When you really need a pick-me-up, when you need that chocolate craving. You know what I'm talking about. There's times where I'm sitting on the couch and watching TV and I'm like, I really want chocolate, but I really don't want to make it. But this is one of those cakes that you can make and put in the freezer and then grab it out, defrost it, and away you go. You got a whole chocolate cake to share or not share. Totally up to you. So let's get into it. You're going to need a few ingredients for this awesome cake. So we are going to have some butter, some eggs, some sour cream. If you don't have sour cream, you can use yogurt. You can also change it to oil. You want a nice fat in there to make this cake nice and moist. Now, a lot of people don't like that word, but you want it moist. Okay, you're gonna need some. Oh shit! You need some dark chocolate. The darker the better for this cake. Some cocoa powder, salt, baking soda, sugar, and water. All right. So you're also gonna need, for equipment-wise, a stand mixer, or you can use a handheld mixer. It's totally up to you. You're gonna need a pot for the stove for a double boiler. Now, I'll tell you more about that later. And then you're going to need your basics, a whisk, spatula, and then a scale to scale everything out. Now, if you do want this recipe, head to chefholliefraser.com and you can grab this recipe off the blog posts and, yeah, give it a whirl at home. Send me pictures on Instagram if it does work, because I really want to know how it all goes for you guys. And if you love it as much as I do. All right, let's get to it. I'm super excited to make this cake because I've been craving chocolate for like 2 days, and you know, the start of the year, everybody's on a bloody diet, and I'm not, and I really, really, really want chocolate right now. So let's get to it. So you don't want your butter too cold, so I'm going to microwave this for like a couple of seconds just so it's a little bit softer, and I mean a couple seconds. You don't want to leave it in there for a whole minute and have this puddle of butter. So we don't want that. So I'm going to add my sugar to my mixer. See what I mean by a couple of seconds? All right. So I've got my butter. And I'm just going to use my hands and I'm going to rip it up and put it in there. Ugh. Ugh. Messy, kids. Okay. I want to cream my butter, but because that makes a hell of a lot of noise, I'm going to wait to do that and get everything else ready. So I'm going to use the same container to save dishes. I'm going to crack open my egg. Whoa. See, shell. We don't want shell. Get rid of that shell. Being a little bit messy today, but that's okay. Clean it up later. Baking's all about having fun and making mess, right? Well, actually, it's probably not, but don't tell anybody I said that, especially the culinary people. Wait, I am one of those culinary people. All right, so I've got my egg. I want to take my water and I'm actually going to heat it on the stove. So I got a pan and I'm going to pour my water in. Now, if you have a hot water dispenser, you're lucky. I don't have one of those. So I'm going to put that, okay, so I'm going to put that on there, let that heat up, and then in the meantime, I'm going to put my flour ingredients together. So I've got a pinch of salt, I'm just going to add that in. I've got my baking soda, I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to use one of my containers, because I don't like creating mess, and I'm going to put my chocolate in the microwave for 30-second increments and get that melted down. Yeah, okay. Now comes to the noisy part. We want to cream the butter and the sugar, and we want to get that nice and light and fluffy color. Something in my eyeball. Maybe it's an eyeball. Anyway, I'm going to cream. Woo! But it's still recording. Okay. So this is going to be super noisy. So. Ah! Also make sure your bowl is locked in. So the problem with my mixer, and I obviously need a new one, is that it's gone to that point where my poor mixer, it just likes to go one speed, and that's ultra fast, kind of like me, I guess. So some days it's good, some days it's bad. Today it's having a day that it just wants to go ultra fast. That's okay. It's now nice and pale, so I'm going to add my egg yolks into my mix and then start to slowly, hopefully my machine likes me, slowly mix them together. So I've got my water is almost simmering behind me. I've got my eggs incorporated. I'm going to add in my sour cream or cream cheese or yogurt or whatever the hell you want to put in. So I'm going to add that in. Give that a quick mix. And then I'm going to stop that. Push my mixer to the side. Now, I'm going to take my simmering water. I'm going to take a whisk, and then I'm going to take my cocoa powder, and I'm going to make a slurry out of it, or a paste, or whatever you want to call it. If you've ever made a chocolate cake, you know that you sometimes get like clumps of cocoa powder, no matter how much you sift it or whisk it or what, there's still clumps of cocoa powder. And sometimes it's just the cocoa powder and it sucks. So I want to mix that until it's a nice smooth paste, just like that. Okay. I'm going to set that aside to cool and clean. I don't want to lose any of that. Clean-ish. Okay. Where I've lost my mind. So I'm just going to scrape the bottom, make sure there's no butter lumps down there. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sift in my flour, baking powder, and now from here on in, I don't want to use a mixer. I want to hand mix it because I want it to stay nice and fluffy. So I want to keep that fluffiness in there. Butter. So that I can keep going and that it stays fluffy and I don't have lumps and crap everywhere. So I'm going to start to fold that in. Before I fully fold that in, I want my chocolate. I'm going to grab another spatula and I'm going to swap out my whisk. And I'm going to add my chocolate into here. Now I want to scrape that really well so I get all of that chocolate out. And then I want to fold that chocolate in while it's still hot. If you do it when it's fully too cold, it's going to seize on you. And then that's going to be a pain in your bum. And it wouldn't be too bad, you'll have chocolate lumps through it, but you kind of don't want that. Okay, so this is going to make 2 8-inch cakes. Yes, 2. Now the reason I'm making 2 is because I'm going to actually divide the 2 in half, and then I'm going to, okay, gotta stop there. I'm going to divide the 2 in half, and then I'm going to actually make layers. So we want those nice, awesome layers. Okay, I'm scraping my chocolate mix into my bowl like that. And now I'm gonna just fold it all in. If you ever watched the Schitt's Creek episode, which fold in the cheese. How do you fold in the cheese, David? Oh no, wait, she says how I don't know. Anyway. Okay, so we want this nice and mixed. You really want to get down to the bottom of that bowl. And you want this nice, smooth mix. Now what I like to do, just so I make sure that I have gotten everything, I don't have any lumps, I'm going to grab my whisk. I'm just going to give it a nice whisk. Found that I have a little bit more power when it comes to whisks. Ah! Almost lost it. Okay. Now that I'm all messy, fun, and I've got so many dishes behind me to do, I've got my mix and it's looking pretty good. The best thing about using a glass bowl is you can actually see like the bottom, that it's all fully mixed and incorporated, which is wicked. Now you can't do that with metal bowls or wooden bowls or whatever bowl you're trying to use. For 2 8-inch pans. Now, because I own a bakery, all of my bloody pans are at the bakery. I literally have one in my house, so I have to do double bakes. So it's going to take me a couple of hours to bake both cakes and then let them cool. So that sucks. So always make sure you have 2 tins ready to go. So spray your tins. Spray them well so they don't stick. So I'm going to pour my mix, half of my mix, oh Jesus, half of my mix into my pan. Just like that. Going to give it a pat down. And then I'm going to pop this in the oven for around 45 minutes at 350 degrees. 45 minutes. I'm going to do a quick cleanup and then we'll come back and we'll make some ganache. So I've done my dishes. My first cake is in the oven and now I'm going to make ganache to go in the middle and over the top. And of course I'm going to add a whole bunch of chocolate bars to that because it's not going to be a chocolate overload cake. We don't have a butt ton of chocolate in there. So to make a ganache, you're going to need a butt ton of chocolate. You're also going to need a pot, a pan, and we're going to make a double boiler. Now, a double boiler, as you can see on this awesome screen of my awesome cool drawing, is a pot that's filled halfway with water. You put a bowl that sits nicely into it with your chocolate, and then you're going to stir it while it melts. That's a double boiler. So I'm going to do that. So, on a medium heat, I'm going to let that come to a bit of a simmer. I'm going to put my chocolate on top of my pot, just like so. It's not touching the water or anything like that. I'm going to use my spatula and I'm going to stir it occasionally. So that's going to take a little bit of time. So coffee time. I need my coffee so badly. So my chocolate behind me is almost melted. I'm going to pop my cream into the microwave for around about 40 seconds. I just don't want my cream to be super cold because I don't want it to kind of shock my chocolate and to seize up. There's a lot of different ways of making ganache. This is the way I make ganache, but I'm sure you could find 1,000,001 ways to make a ganache. So I'm going to pop that, pop the cream into the bowl, and then I'm going to whisk it together. I'm going to pull that off the heat for a second, and then I'm going to put it back on the heat. Okay, so I've got my cream out of the microwave. I am going to scrape my spatula off because I know that there's a little bit of lumps of chocolate, and there's like, okay, there's bits of chocolate in there. That's all right. I'm gonna end up incorporating that anyway. So I'm gonna pour my cream in. I'm just gonna start to whisk it. What I want to do is I want to whisk it so that it comes together really nice, and it's this nice, smooth ganache. Now, if you do have a few little lumps in there, you can pop it back on. Mine is looking like I don't have any lumps in there, so I'm not actually going to have to put it back on, but it's turning into this amazingly smooth chocolate ganache. Okay, it's enough whisking. You can leave the whisk if you want. I'm going to let that sit, and I'm still waiting for my cakes to come out of the oven. So while that's sitting and waiting and my cakes are baking, I'm going to clean up the mess that I have made and get back to it. Coffee. Still drinking my coffee. My first cake is out of the oven. My second cake is about to come out, and then I just need to let them cool, and then we can get on to decorating. So in the meantime, I've just opened a whole bunch of my favorite chocolate bars. You can put anything you want on top, honestly, but these are my favorite. So I'm gonna wait for that cake to come out before I eat these all. So I'm gonna put those in a safe place, wait for my cake to come out, and then we'll get decorating. Time has just gone off, and it's time to take our cake out of the oven. Let's see how it looks. Yeah. So I'm gonna let that cool for just a minute, because before we do the flippy flip, we want it to cool down, and then I will flip it out and let it cool. My cake is cooled down to enough to the point where I can actually flip it. So let's flip it and see if I didn't destroy this cake. Okay, it's still hot, so I'm using oven mitts. I was gonna flip it, let's do it this way. So, on top, just like that. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Oh dear. Look at that. It worked. Okay, so my cakes are cooled down to the point where I can cut them. So I'm going to take off the top of my cake, and I'm going to do that with a bread knife. So I'm going to slowly cut the top off, just with a short little sawing motion. Your cake's going to be super soft. Now, I do recommend making this cake a day in advance. It'll make it a lot easier to cut it. Now, my cake is still a little bit warm, and I can see that because there's steam coming off it. And of course, I'm impatient. I want it now. But look how nice that looks in the middle. It looks so good. And definitely make sure you keep your scraps, because they're awesome. And you can always put them on ice cream or something, because it tastes really good. Okay, so now I'm gonna work out where the half of my cake is. I just lost the light. Of course I did. Okay, so I'm gonna work out where half of my cake is. And I'm gonna go all the way around until it joins up. Now, I will have 2 halves of my cake. They're quite soft, so I don't want to move it as much. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit more because I'm being super impatient, and then we can get on decorating. Now has come the best part of this cake. I'm going to stack it. So I've put my first layer of cake on like a little board type of thing. Now I have my 4 layers. So I'm going to start by adding ganache. I'm going to use a bit of a spoon because it just makes it a little bit easier. And I'm going to spoonful the ganache onto my cake. Then using an offset spatula, I'm going to smooth it out. I don't always have to go all the way to the edge. I just want to make sure that it's nice and even. And then I'm going to put my next layer on top, just like that. And then repeat the process. Now that my cake is stacked, okay, a couple of my layers broke, but that's all right. I'm going to use this ganache and I'm going to use a palette knife and I'm just going to seal up all the cracks because who's going to know I broke a layer? Nobody's going to know except for you and me and everybody else who's watching this video. But that's okay. So I'm going to keep smoothing out ganache all over and around my cake till I get a really nice thick coat. I'm going to put it in the fridge for like 5 minutes and then I'm going to do another layer on the outside, my final coat. Now the last part is the best part and that's decorating your cake. You can decorate it any way you want. I've gone around my cake with a cake comb and I'm going to add some chocolate shavings around the outside because, you know, it's a deadly chocolate cake. We want extra chocolate. Remember those chocolate bars I was eating earlier? Yeah, well now's the time to add them all on top. I'm going to pop them all on top as much as I can, sprinkle it with a few chocolate shavings and that's it. Away you go. It's ready to eat. All right, let's put it to the test and see how this cake went. Ah, look at those layers. So amazing. And there you have it. The most deadly chocolate cake you'll ever eat. Let's taste it. Okay, this is a cake that I'm not going to be able to stop eating. It is so good. It's so soft, but it's so rich. So, if you want the recipe to this cake, head to my website and don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll be back next time. I'm gonna go eat the rest of this cake now. So, bye! If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.